What was the best play stupid games and win stupid prizes incident that you've witnessed? There are so many that my desire to leave my life behind and start a new one in a whole new place and environment seems more and more like the best option. One friend I grew up with was always the dumb but correct kind of guy. It was not hard to tell that he was not as intelligent as the normal Joe, but he was a decent dude most of the time. I don't know if this is just a cliche, but he was good looking. But the problem was that he didn't think of much more than physical relationships in his life and was, moreover, really insecure. You know, the kind of dudes who try to cover it up or compensate for it by using any chance to talk good about themselves. Like, yeah, I was the best football player there ever was in my school, and nobody is as strong as me. Look at my arms. That kind of dude. To be honest, if I hadn't known him since I was 3 years old, I would never have an interest in getting to know somebody like him because that's not what I look for in people and friendships. He has pretty crappy behavior and is not what you consider a real friend. But karma really gets you. He had this new girlfriend when he was 20 and it went really fast. They were a couple for like 2 weeks when he started telling everyone, "She's the best girlfriend I've ever had. I'm going to marry her," and all the other types of comments that sound unhealthy. After 4 weeks, she moved in with him. He was 2.5 months into the relationship and she was pregnant. Oh, snap. The problem was that his only indication of what makes a good girlfriend was how good is she in bed. He would ignore every red flag, even the big ones, with no regrets. Good relations equals a good girlfriend, even if they steal his money or cheat on him. And that's pretty much what happened. Everyone warned him about his girlfriend. The first time she met his family, his grandma whispered, "Be careful with that girl," as she hugged him to say goodbye. His mother dropped a lot of hints like that too. I wasn't quite aware of it, but she always seemed fake. You could tell she's playing a role or something by the way she talks, etc. Come to find out, she was lying and manipulating. They were a couple for 5 years, 2 kids, and she trained him like a dog. She forbade him to meet his family and cut all ties to his mother, his sisters, etc. as soon as she felt like they would split them up because they kept warning him. She was just a toxic and bad person, even towards the kids who were basically just means to an end for her. The same was true of his cousin, who was one of his best friends. As soon as she had the feeling that his cousin thought she was bad for him, even if he never said it, she forbade contact. He really couldn't live without it, not even for 2 days, without having the worst mood anybody ever had. For him, it's nearly more important than breathing air. So that BS went on for 5 years, a lot of fighting, not having contact with his family and friends, using this dude, cheating on him, not giving a damn about the kids, stealing money, etc. Later, she went on to make one last power move before dropping him like a hot potato. In the last months of the relationship, they had arguments all the time, and some other pretty messed up things were going on. They wanted to move to another apartment, but little did he know that she had other plans. She signed the contract alone and let him work for a week to renovate the apartment, paint the walls, set up the furniture, etc. She kicked him out and said, "It's over and you can't see the kids anymore," and he spiraled right into a big depression and his whole world broke apart. As time passed and he tried to get back with her for way too long, she started to use him as a servant, like teasing him and giving hope that they could be a couple again just for the sake of him being the babysitter, car mechanic, grocery shopper, etc., whenever she needed one. It sounds dumb, and it is, but at the same time, it was the best he could do for himself, because that's when some stories came to light and he started to lose his unhealthy fixation on this woman. But 1 year after the breakup, the true story came out and he lost his last bit of affection for her. He found out that both of his kids were not his biological children. He had a DNA test to verify it, and it was true. Moreover, he found out she was unfaithful to him on a regular basis every time he was working and she was at home, supposed to take care of the kids and the apartment. He didn't know about the infidelity while he was still living with her. She never went shopping or did anything productive either, so that was the first harsh realization for him. He doesn't know for sure how many men she had during this time, but based on the actions he noticed after the breakup, there were many individuals involved. The second realization was that his children were not biologically his. The third one was shocking because he found out all the bills he had to pay for things he never bought or possessed were not some kind of scam, but she was the one who bought all the stuff and kept it a secret. She used his bank and Amazon accounts and even forged his signature when the delivery person brought the packages. That's why he had like 8,000 euros of bills in the end. Interestingly, they even found out the signature was forged and some other evidence that it wasn't him who ordered all that, yet she still wasn't convicted and he had to pay. The final straw was when he realized she used intimacy, like her kids, as a means to an end, so she offered it to several men for various reasons. One was a man to supply her with substances, the other one was the new babysitter paid in that currency, one for ordering things on Amazon with his money, etc. She once tried to contact me 2 years ago via Facebook, like she was my best friend. I just ignored it and never heard from her again. Yikes, the first story hurts already, but fellas, let that be a lesson for all of us. Makes me wonder still, though, how many side pieces did she have? It's too bad the guy had to waste a whole 5 years learning the actual truth, especially that his children were not his children. Hopefully, the second story doesn't hurt as bad as this one. This is story 2. A buddy of mine, let's call him Jim, and I were on our school's MMA team in college, intramural, but still a great time. He was a year younger than me, but he fought at heavyweight and had a beard, so he really looked like he could have been my dad. Real colossus as a freshman. So we were walking back to the area where we live from campus, and this kid, let's call him Timmy, and his 2 friends who must have known Jim, saw us walking towards them. Timmy starts laughing as he walks towards us, gesticulating at Jim. The sidewalk is next to a major roadway, maybe 4 or so feet with a small median, and is relatively narrow, so Jim and I go single file so our groups can walk past each other. It is apparent from the laughing kid walking directly into us that their small group isn't going to single file, and that is when I notice my friend isn't laughing or smiling. And I realize that this kid is not friends with Jim at all. Jim is a super affable guy, so I was surprised. He was clearly angry. He posted up and stood still on the sidewalk as our group moved past ours, and Timmy intentionally walked into Jim, saying, "Whoops," and trying to drop a shoulder into Jim's chest. He practically bounced off of him and ended up on the ground protesting something along the lines of, "What the hell?" I don't remember the exact verbiage, just mostly being confused about what was going on. Then Timmy got up and tried to angrily shove Jim, which moved him maybe a foot or 2, but it was towards the direction of the road. Jim caught his footing and didn't end up in the road, but there were cars moving at speed only just behind him. Neither Timmy's friends nor I moved a muscle at this point, but I remember helpfully shouting, "Yo," like 3 times, which probably helped de-escalate the situation considerably. I still cringe over how useless I was when I go through my mental Rolodex of shame at night. Jim wasn't having it. Timmy wasn't a very big guy, maybe 5'11", but he must have only weighed like 150 pounds. Jim punched him once in the chest with what I could only describe as a Superman punch, and I've never seen someone crumple so fast in my life. I stayed because I was worried I was going to have to use CPR on Timmy, but Jim was already back walking home. Evidently, Timmy sat behind Jim and Chem for an entire semester and tried to impress the girl sitting next to him by making fun of Jim. Among other things, he continuously accused Jim of having a bowl cut for his haircut. He didn't, and that had been what he had been telling his friends and laughing about. I imagine laughing must have been painful for the next several weeks because I heard that he broke a number of ribs in the encounter with one of the other guys there. I still wonder what was running through Timmy's head when he saw the kid he tormented for a semester off campus walking towards him, standing like 235 at 6'2", and thinking, "Hey, I bet my buddies will think my joke about his haircut is hilarious." Story 3. While back, I was at the Indianapolis Zoo, which has this cool exhibit with gibbons and otters. Now, if you've ever seen a gibbon, they're not that big, but they have crazy long arms. The exhibit is surrounded by a net, and at the corner of one side, you can sit on a wall near the net. So now, there is this family. They are total state fair specimens, huge in that Midwestern only eat fried foods way, dressed in their Walmart finest and beet red. One of these kids looks like he is straight from Central casting for dumb fat boys. Think the kid from Bad Santa or the German kid in Willy Wonka, but with less diligent hygiene. This boy was just cramming goldfish crackers into his mouth like he was in a contest and sitting on the wall next to the net. And this gibbon comes over and gives him a death stare. And the kid just stops and looks at the gibbon. Then the kid slowly reaches into the box, pulls out a cracker, and waves it at the gibbon. The gibbon slowly reaches his arm out, and the kid snatches the cracker back and says, "Stupid monkey." Now, gibbons are apes, and I could just see in his eyes that the gibbon was deeply insulted. The gibbon pulls his arm back into the net and goes back to his stare. The kid puts the cracker back on and waves it again. No reaction, just a stare. So the kid gets closer and starts taunting the gibbon. Again, no reaction, so the kid gets a little closer and a lot louder. Now, the nets are kept up by pretty solid looking posts, and there just happened to be one right between the kid and the gibbon. The gibbon just shoots his arm out like a cobra on steroids and yanks the kid into the post. It rang like Big Ben. So the kid is on the ground screaming, and the gibbon, who somehow managed to get the box of crackers, is just eating them real slow, like with the same evil stare. It was glorious. Story 4. This happened to me about 7 years ago. I was walking home when some kid tried to bum a cig. He was like 5'6" ish, about 140 pounds, had a black eye, and was clearly a bit on something. I told him I didn't have any and kept on going, but he basically walked in front of me and said to give him some cash so he could go buy some cigs. I said I didn't have any, put my earbuds back in, and kept on walking again. I thought that was that, but about 15 seconds later, I felt something hit in my backpack and lower back with a lot of force. This dumb, tiny a-hole jump kicked me from behind like some retarded ninja. Because I had music playing, I didn't hear him coming at all, but as I was so much bigger than him, 6 feet, 220 pounds, somehow I didn't even fall down fully. He gets up right away and starts swinging. Now, I am certainly no fighter. I've only had a few minor fights in my life before this, but I did wrestle for 3 years as a kid. I grab over and underhooks and do a sloppy hip toss trip that my former wrestling coach would not be proud of, and the little a-hole hits the floor. It had to have hurt, but like the dumb guy that he is, he gets up and resumes his best impression of a helicopter, arms swinging wildly. We went into some sort of a brawl, and I asked if he was done. He was indeed. I never saw him again, but I sometimes wonder how often he pulled crap like that, especially since he already had a black eye. Why would someone who doesn't know how to fight start a fight over nothing with a grown man who has 6 inches and 80 pounds on them? Because I'd like to think he was really desperate for those cigarettes, and that those cigarettes represented something he was really lacking in his life besides common sense. But let's go ahead and see what's up for Story 5. Story 5. My life is pretty dull, so something happened to me. I had a really rough week at work and took it out on my motorcycle. I went out for a quick ride in the late afternoon when traffic was just starting to get heavy. I cut up traffic left and right, and then there was a huge opening ahead, so I got in front of traffic and popped a huge wheelie through an intersection. The front wheel was off the ground from the beginning to the end of the intersection, then I put it back down. A cop was at that intersection. He didn't think it was nearly as cool as I did, though. I pulled over immediately, dropped my key, and put my hands on my handlebars, just frozen. Thought I was done for. Thankfully, I didn't get arrested. I got ripped, a new one, and a reckless driving charge. $2,100 later, it never went on my record, and as far as the court is concerned, it doesn't exist. Thank you to my lawyer for that one, but that was not a cheap wheelie. Since then, I don't really fool around anymore. I just like to ride around, listen to music, and enjoy myself. I think that was the end of my hooligan days. All things considered, I'm pretty glad my stupid prize was just a ticket and not wrecking and possibly taking someone else out with me. I definitely deserve that fine, if not more. Enjoy the madness, maybe not that kind of madness with pulling wheelies off in a busy intersection, but please do make sure to show me some love by liking this video and subscribing to my channel because it really does help me out. Thank you in advance, and here's Story 6. A driver, DUI, is locked up looking for bail money, so he calls his friend to pick him up. Friend shows up to the PD and drives up onto the walkway, then parks crooked, halfway in the parking lot, halfway up onto the walkway, stumbles out of the vehicle and walks, stumbles, and weaves his way into the station. We're all inside watching this unfold on the security camera and can't quite believe what we are seeing. As soon as a guy makes it to the front desk, powerful waves of booze smell wash over us and proceed to stink up the place. We're behind bulletproof glass with only a small opening to allow sound to pass through, but you would have thought someone emptied a keg out on the floor the way it smelled. This idiot drove intoxicated to the PD to bail out his buddy, who had just been arrested for DUI. Once the idiot got to the PD, he was so wasted he couldn't even remember why he was there. We had to tell him. Then we had to tell him, yes, he could see his friend, but only briefly on the way to a cell of his own. So instead of having no prisoners to watch, the station officer now had 2 intoxicated idiots to watch. The rest of us were laughing at the absolute absurdity of the whole situation. Story 7. I was working in a grocery store in a tiny mall. One of the other places was a karate studio. Punk teenagers love to come hang out and make problems at this crappy little mall. Three eighth graders, I know their age because my mom taught them, came in and stood outside the studio, making fun of the kids and being generally obnoxious. The door to the studio was open because it was a full day and it seemed like a ceremony was going on, so it was probably hot. A father noticed the annoying teens and shut the door. They got pissed, kept opening the door, and taunted the man. Eventually, he stepped out and started arguing with them. They all went outside the mall, I don't know for what purpose, but as the dad came back in, I saw the ringleader, my mom said he was the biggest punk, looked so pissed, ran in and jumped on the man's back. The man dipped his shoulder and the kid flew off. Wonderful justice. Police were called by his family and I was allowed to leave work early to make a statement as I saw the whole thing, and I knew he might be screwed. It went to town court eventually, he got off, and I had to speak in front of the judge. Pretty interesting experience. Story 8. In middle school, we had a money whirlwind machine. It was filled with $500, mostly ones, but a hidden 20 were in there, even prize tickets. You could buy a trip for $10. Kids tried like crazy for the 20 and prize tickets, even letting go of the ones to try and get the runaway ticket. Most only came out with $4 to $5. My turn came up last before the game closed and the room was filled with buy-ins. Over $2,000 and a ticket for a laptop are still in there. I asked for the rules again. Everyone looks confused, but I was just told, just catch the money, no holding back. I smiled at myself. As the room kicks up, I jump into action and take off the hoodie I had tied at my waist. The sleeves and hood were knotted up like a windsock. It filled up instantly with air, and after 12 seconds, the room was empty. I have time to tie up the base of it, knowing I'm going to get yelled at by everyone. Things started out like I predicted, but I kept closer to the teachers, ones who would be in trouble if they grabbed me or my stuff. I went up to the prize booth and asked for the remaining prizes. We need the tickets. The principal was the booth master and not a very nice one. No ticket, no prizes. I cleaned out that machine. If I didn't get the ticket, it wasn't in there, and what would that mean? My mouth moved faster than I could think at times as I accused the house of rigging a game. At home, I didn't find half the prize tickets for my new stuff, but I was in charge of the next donation drive. Pizza Drive with a slice buy-in got the restaurant to lower the price as a charity write-off, overheads on both ends. I wonder when this actually happened because nowadays, this is something you could like YouTube and find the hack to. And then from there, it's all easy peasy and everything in that money whirlwind machine is straight up in your pockets. Story 9. I saw a man freak out at a Burger King a few years ago. He was furious that they had not put barbecue sauce on his Whopper. The employee said they could give him barbecue sauce, but they don't usually put it on the burger for you. And the man began yelling that it was too late and the burger was cold, so the sauce didn't matter, and then he spat at the employee. It just landed on the counter, thankfully, and said, "Get me another burger," and tossed his burger at the employee, half wrapped, ketchup out. A few patrons all moved to intercept, but the employee lashed out before we could do anything and began grabbing burgers from the warming rack and throwing them at the man, screaming, "You can have as many burgers as you want, just get out of here." The man shrank and beat it out of there super fast. There was a moment of shocked silence, and then everyone began telling the employee it was okay and he shouldn't feel bad, and that the guy was a horrible person and such. The manager came and told the employee he could go on a break, but didn't look too upset or ready to discipline the kid, so hopefully nothing bad happened afterwards. I, and probably some of the other patrons, still feel that I should have jumped in to help the kid sooner, but man, did he ever stick up for himself. Story 10. Stuck on 696 outside Detroit, traffic is barely moving thanks to the mix of an accident and summer construction on the lodge. So, yeah, normal day. I was in the outside lane waiting to head south into Dearborn when an idiot in a Mustang rolled on by the shoulder going 40. He must have made it another 20 or 30 cars past when I heard screeching tires, a crunch, and then a stuck horn. Great, now I'm really not getting anywhere soon. Everything got better as folks made their way left and around the accident, and I saw what happened. Mr. Mustang hit a Park State Police car. Thanks for tuning in to hear these wild, play stupid games, win stupid prizes moments. Now, if you enjoyed hearing about instant karma, because, who doesn't, you're not going to want to miss our next video. People share their best instant karma stories. Story 2 is well deserved. You're going to like that one. I did. I'll see you there, and thank you for watching this one.